All right, we're going to begin working on lesson 2.1, so chapter 2, lesson 1, and we're going to be working on one-step equations. Okay, we talked in the last chapter that equations was just something with an equal sign, so usually has a variable, a number, some operations, and then an equal sign. That's different than expression, no equal sign. So equation has an equal sign, so you can see obviously we're going to be working on a lot of equations today. Okay, and then we have something called equivalent equations. And equivalent just means they have the same solution or same answer. Okay. All right, we're going to look at example 1A here. All right, so when we're working on this, our main objective is to isolate the variable. All right, so we're going to find the variable, in this case x, and we're going to make sure that that guy gets all by himself. So to do this, sometimes what I do is draw like a wall on the equal sign. So I'll put a little line down there. And whatever I do to one side of the equation, so whatever I do over here, I've got to do over here. So to get this x all by itself, I'm going to do the opposite of whatever's on the same side. So since this is plus 13, I am actually going to subtract 13 from both sides. Undo it. Okay, so positive and negative will cancel each other out. You still have an x on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you're going to add those up because same sign. So add, and you end up with negative 40. All right, next example. Okay, so same thing. Isolate the variable. Okay, so again, you look for the variable. So in this case, the b. If you need to draw a wall, draw your wall. Okay, and then I'm going to add 3 over because it's minus 3. So I'm going to undo it by adding 3 to both sides. So those cancel. So I have b on the right-hand side here, and on the left, negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. And that's my final answer. All right, so now let's look at what do we do when we have fractions. It's still the same concept. So I'm going to go ahead, again, draw a wall if you need to, and I'm going to add 3 halves over to the other side. So when I do that, those cancel out. I have my equal sign. I have a y on the right-hand side, and then 1 half plus 3 halves is 4 halves, which we reduce to 2. So my solution is y equals 2. All right, on D, we're going to do a little bit of division here, okay? And the reason I know it's division is right in the middle here, I'm going to have 4 times x. So to undo the division, again, draw your wall if you need to draw your wall, but to undo the multiplication, you are going to divide both sides by 4. Since it says multiplication, you divide by 4. Okay, so then we're going to take 4.6 divided by 4, so x equals a positive times a negative, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And then, unfortunately, we still don't have a calculator just yet, so I've got 4 divided by 4.6 goes in 1 time, nothing left over, drop in the decimal and drop down your 6, goes in 1 time. And so when I do that, I get 4, 2, add a 0 in and drop it down, and we end up with 5. So my solution here is going to be negative 1.15 will be my final answer. Okay? All right, so on E, same thing. Okay, isolate the variable. Okay, so again, get the h by itself, and the way you're going to do that is this is saying negative 15 times h. So you are going to divide both sides by negative 15. Now again, if you need to draw a wall, if that helps you out. The negative 15s will cancel. I'll have an equal sign with an h on the right-hand side. And then 10 15ths reduces to 2/3. A negative by negative is a positive. And that will be your final answer. Okay, on F. All right, so this changes up just a little bit because this guy right here, the fraction bar, means division. So we are going to multiply both sides by negative 9. So whatever's on the bottom, we're going to multiply, so those will cancel. I'll have C equals, and again, if you've got to draw the wall, draw the wall. 8 times negative 9 is negative 72. Okay. All right, let's go to G. Okay, so now G is a little different here. We are multiplying by a fraction, all right? So when I look at this, a lot of people will say, well, just divide by 4/5. Now, I don't know about you, but that just doesn't look like any fun whatsoever. It looks like a big hot mess. So what I'm going to do is, let me erase this here. Instead of dividing by a fraction and making it look so complex, I am going to multiply by the reciprocal. Oops, wrong. Multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 5/4 so that those guys will cancel out. And so whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Okay? So I have m equals, and then if you need to, put the 28 over 1, cross cancel this and this, so this will go to a 1 and a 7. So then I've got 7 times 5 would be 35. All right. Okay, so it's kind of the same concept here. So when I look at this guy right here, a lot of us would say divide by 7. However, that's looking pretty complex right there too. So if you get something that looks like this as a complex fraction, okay, an option you have is, instead of dividing by 7, and I'm going to go ahead and erase this. So instead of doing that, maybe I'm not going to erase. Okay, I'll just rewrite it. So instead of doing that, what I would recommend you do is multiply by 1/7, right? Because this would be technically 7 over 1. So if you multiply by the reciprocal, it just makes it a lot easier and prettier to look at. All right, so then I'm going to get R equals, cross cancel the 7s to 1 and 1. A negative times a positive is a negative 1/2. Okay? So again, if you get a complex fraction, you get something that looks pretty nasty like this, then go ahead and you can just multiply by the reciprocal. But make sure it's on the same side as your variable. You've got to move the 7 because it's on the same side as the variable. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and go to the next page. Okay, on this, it's a word problem. It says define a variable, write an equation, solve, and then we're going to interpret your solution using a complete sentence. In other words, take your final answer and you have to write out a complete sentence about what it kind of means. Okay, so this one, toucans and blue and yellow macaws are both tropical birds. The length of an average toucan is about 2/3 the length of an average blue and yellow macaw. Toucans are about 24 inches long. What is the length of an average blue and yellow macaw? All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to define our variable. So I'm going to define it. I'm going to put L, and that's going to be length of blue. I'm going to abbreviate here. And what was that? Blue and yellow. Blue and yellow. Okay. And then what kind of bird? Shoot. Macaws, sorry. Okay? Yeah. All right, so now that's defining the variable. That's what I'm looking for. And remember, we've talked about be very specific here. The more specific you are, the better off you are. Okay, so now kind of looking back in here, let's find some important information here. Okay, so first thing I see is the length of a toucan. So toucan is about 2/3 the length of an average macaw. Okay, and then here it tells you toucans are about 24 inches long. Okay, so I know that I have a total of 24 inches, and I know that here this is saying 2/3 of, remember of means to multiply, and then we're talking about the blue and yellow. So when I look at 2/3 of, that's telling me 2/3 of L. All right, so okay, so now that's writing our equation. So now we're going to solve it, multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So all that will cancel. We'll get L equals, and then if you need to put that 1, cross cancel. So this will go to a 1 and a 12. So 12 times 3 is 36, and we are talking inches here. Okay, so now our last step will be to write a sentence explaining what this is. Okay, so the length of a blue and yellow macaw is about 36 inches. And you can say inches long even if you wanted to. Okay? All right, so that's what I'm talking about. So 4 things I'm looking for from you. Okay, I want you to define a variable. You're going to write the equation here in red. You're going to solve and get an answer. And then you're going to write a sentence explaining what 36 really means. Okay, so a problem like this on a test is going to be worth 4 points, 1 point for each section. All right, that concludes the video lesson for lesson 1, chapter 2.